When it comes to pasture management on dairy farms, there's some important questions that need to be considered, and those can include things such as what is the maximum pasture production potential of the farm, and how much of that pasture that's being grown is then grazed and turned into milk. I'm Tori Alexander, and I'm here with Martin Corioluna and Peter Beale to present results from one of Dairy Up's projects that looked at using remote sensing technology for pasture management. The project used satellite technology to measure pasture biomass on 15 farms in 3 distinct regions across New South Wales over a 2-year period. So firstly, Martin, can you tell us about how you ensured the accuracy of the satellite technology?
Thanks, Tori. To ensure the accuracy of biomass estimated from satellites, we gathered data from on-ground measurements using plate meters at the same time. What we found is that the accuracy of biomass estimated from calibrated satellites was comparable with the plate meter.
Okay, great. Thanks, Martin. Now that we know that the satellites have that comparable accuracy, can you tell us about what you saw regarding pasture production and utilisation across the farms?
Okay, for some context, when we talk about pasture production, we refer to the cumulative growth in biomass per paddock for the year. Similarly, pasture graze is the cumulative reduction in biomass per paddock from grazing, and utilizations is the difference between the two. As you can see from this graph, what we found was annual pasture production average across all paddocks and farms sat a little above 11 tons of dry matter per hectare, ranging between 5 to 20 tons of dry matter per hectare. In contrast, pasture graze was at around 7 tons of dry matter per hectare and per year. There were some differences between regions and farms, but the important element to highlight here is pasture use efficiency, which we found to be around 59%. This means that only 59% of available pasture was consumed through grazing.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. We know that hitting those pre and post grazing biomass targets is important in pasture management. Can you tell us about what impact this had on pasture production and pasture use efficiency?
Okay, I use as an example 2 paddocks from the same farm. In both graphs, we are looking at pasture biomass throughout the year as it is affected by grazing. The upper peaks represent the pre-grazing pasture biomass and the lower peaks correspond to the post-grazing residuals. In paddock A, both pre- and post-grazing biomass are not matching the targets. In fact, they are highly variable. In contrast, if you look at paddock B, the biomass was very close to both pre- and post-grazing targets in most of the cases. This resulted in paddock B having a higher pasture use efficiency when compared to paddock A.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Is there anything else that can be quantified through monitoring pasture biomass?
So monitoring pasture biomass can objectively show production and usage, but it can also provide estimate on pasture losses. Looking at these 2 example farms, we see monthly pre- and post-grazing biomass along with potential pasture losses throughout the year, which is calculated as the difference between the actual and targeted post-grazing biomass. In Farm A, we see a higher post-grazing pasture residuals, which led to bigger potential losses when compared to Farm B, whose post-grazing residuals were closer to the target. Working on the assumption that 1 kilogram of dry matter converts into 1 liter of milk, that is 5,600 liters per hectare of potential losses from pasture for Farm A, which drops to 2,700 liters per hectare from Farm B, which is a potentially significant amount.
Wonderful, thank you, Martin. That's some really interesting information. We're going to jump over now and have a chat with Peter about some of the implications of these results for farmers. Peter, what do these results highlight about monitoring pasture?
Well, I think what's really interesting is that it provides both the total amount of pasture that's been produced, and then it shows us very clearly how much is actually being grazed. But the data, and again, Martin has really interrogated this in a way that we can now look back and see what actually happened in that period. Did we meet targets and did we not? And that's the value of taking from this research to a farm level, that you will now be able to have that data, be able to look back and not just think that this might have happened. You'll actually have records of how that paddock performed. Did you meet the targets and did you not? And when you make decisions early because you've anticipated better, you tend to make better decisions.
Yeah, look, it's possible to monitor pasture through eyeballing a paddock. I guess with that in mind, what value does a tool bring to monitoring pasture?
Well, I think when we're eyeballing things, we all come up with slightly different figures, and things like canopy cover, they're actually quite subjective as to, one person will see at this point, one person will say, oh, it's not quite there yet. Even with measuring 3 leaf stage or 3.5 leaf stage, you'll still find some subjectivity in this. What we're hoping to add with this sort of data is objective measurement, where it's an instrument measuring that pasture growth, not just once, but all the way through the grazing rotation. It's objective data, it's been calibrated, it's giving us a reasonably good, accurate picture of what the pasture's produced totally, how much has been grazed, and what that difference is. And then we can, with that data, we can start looking at the why didn't we get it. And Martin's already shown that sometimes there's too much residue left, sometimes we haven't allowed the pasture to grow to the target, or we've gone past that target and we're producing too much. There's always things that go wrong, always things, but having that objective data, marrying it in with climate data, and it just gives you a better feel for what's happening and how the pastures are responding, and so ultimately you manage them a lot better. And that's really what we're trying to achieve with these sort of tools.
Some interesting points there. Final question. What are the implications of objective monitoring for on-farm management? Well,
most dairy farmers know that pasture is the cheapest source of feed, and what Martin's been able to show is that there's a significant amount of gain to be made, and having cheap pasture feed on hand has always been a key part of the dairy industry, and this will help us achieve that even better. And when we put dollar figures, it really sharpens the axe, and you can start to really see this is costing me quite a lot by not getting this part right, and you can start to address it. The monitoring, just helps sharpen our decisions, make better decisions, and make more profit in the long term.
Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Martin, as well, for presenting the results and insights into this project today. There'll be a link in the description below for further information, and you can also go on the Dairy Up website to find out not just about this project, but about other projects that are happening within the Dairy Up program. I would like to take a little moment now to say thank you very much to all the farmers who participated in this work. Without your time and contribution, we wouldn't be able to have these results to present to industry, and we are very grateful for that. So thank you for your participation and willingness to be involved.